There's only one thing that's keeping you unhappy. Only one thing. And that's when you're not living in alignment to your ideal of how you should be living. In other words, you're living too small, right? And not too small based on some external definition of what living large for you should be. It's based on the definition, which is the story, the internal story that you're telling yourself every day about how you should be living. The bigger that gap is between how you are living and how you think that you should be living, the bigger that gap, the bigger your pain will be, the more unhappy you will be. Now, let me tie this into business leaders and entrepreneurs. Many times in business, it is tempting to say, oh, I want to grow, or I want to be the best, or I want. You want to achieve things that will get you external pats on your back. You want to get some validation from the outside, from people saying, oh, you're smart. Oh, you're good. Oh, you're a great business person. It's not the right reason to do it. In the short term, you're going to feel like you're closing that gap between the kind of business person you think you should be and the kind of business person that you are. You're going to think you're closing the gap, when in reality, you may be widening the gap. Because the validation for the job you're doing has to come from the inside. You have to feel good about the kind of business that you are building. It's simple in that regard, that the reason I want to be a great businessman is because that's what I want to do. I don't have to go into a whole lot of other reasons other than it makes me feel good to understand how I can be of better service more and more over time. That does a lot for my sense of self, my sense of self-value and self-worth. In psychology, there's a concept called your master status. And your master status is that thing in your life, that title, that you most want. And for as long as I can remember, that's been a business person for me. So when I was an employee, the deeper I got into my career, the higher I climbed the ladder. While I am thankful for those experiences that they allowed me to have the kind of business I have today, I was widening that gap. And all the external validation was theirs. Man, you're really doing well. You're making a good living. I wish at your age I would have, but that's not what I should have been doing. I'm at a point in my life now where my ability to earn income is not a question for me. How much is not even that important to me. What's important to me is that I'm living in alignment. The actions that I take are in alignment with the view that I have of myself internally. I want to understand the mechanics of business. I want to understand the subtleties of business. I want to understand the tried and true principles of conducting successful businesses. I want to help other people understand those principles. I want to help other people expand their businesses. I want to expand my own. At the end of my life, it's not about just accumulating wealth to leave or to lose. It's about me feeling good about what I've done with my time on this earth. And I believe that this is my major purpose, is to be into this field of enterprise. I enjoy it. I love it. There's nothing I'd rather be doing than getting better at conducting business. And what is business? It is me offering something of value to you in which you will receive a greater use value than you pay to me in monetary value. I want to get better and better at that. I want to be able to give you 5-10 minutes worth of advice that will make you millions of dollars. And in those 5 to 10 minutes, I want to be able to earn thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's more than a fair exchange. The utility you get from my advice, my advisement, my products, my services I want you to get 10x, 100x what you pay me in return. And to me, that is a fair exchange. I am not looking to take all of the gains from you. That would not be a fair business exchange. So let's tie this back into why you're not happy. So if you're watching this video, you probably searched this. It's thought you were connected with you. And I want you to close the gap between how you are living and how you think you should be living. Only you can do that work. Only you can close that gap. So if it's your professional life, if you hate it, it's making you miserable, depressed, stressed, debilitating depression or anxiety, stop it. If you can't stop right away, make a plan to stop as soon as possible. And not a year from now. I'm talking about like 3 months from now, max. You should be exiting what you're doing to go do something that will provide you more meaning, more alignment, that will help you to earn more income. Because when you're aligned, when you're walking in your true purpose, I don't see how it's really possible for you to earn less income. Really. When you are happy, you don't spend as much money on frivolous things because you're happy. You're contented with yourself. So even if your revenue dollar drops in your personal business, well, your profitability sure will increase. And I'm not saying that you should live some extremely frugal life. You should live how you want to live. But the trick is to figure out and be comfortable with how you want to live. And then setting up your life such that you live that way every day, full time. Like I like to say, I'm living my best life, full time, for a living. I want the same thing for you. Get yourself into perfect alignment. Strive for perfect alignment. When you are aligned, it's easy to say no to those things that do not serve you. It could be people that do not serve you. And what I mean is not that they're subservient to you. I mean that when you're interacting with individuals, do you feel uplifted? Do you feel filled? Are you happy to pour into them during those interactions? If not, you need to get around better people. You have to say no. You have to set a boundary. It may be places. If certain environments are not conducive to your higher and higher unfoldment, get into a better environment. It's as easy as walking from one place to another. If it's things, if it's substances, if you struggle with substances, that's probably because you're not aligned with how you're living and how you think you should be living. That's number one. And then number two, how can you be the master of your own fate when you cannot master your own self? Self-discipline. Discipline being the ability to give yourself a command and follow through. Discipline is the fuel and the catalyst of alignment. There's always going to be some external thing and even some internal voice that's telling you to do something that is not in alignment with how you think you should be living. And discipline is your ability to say, no, I'm not going to do that because that is not in alignment with my vision and my mission for my life. Discipline is the ability to say yes to those right things. You know, people have a hard time saying yes to themselves and to the right things, just as they have a hard time saying no to those things that are not aligned and that are bad for them. It's kind of like if someone presents you with a $1 million business opportunity that you know that you're capable of following through on, that you have the skills, the competency to execute on, the experience, the network, everything you need. Well, you'll say it's too good to be true. You're making it hard to tell yourself yes to what you know you should be doing. It's very common. Very common. That's a lack of self-belief. That's a lack of self-love. That's a lack of self-confidence. And those are all stemming from a lack of discipline. You don't trust yourself. You don't trust yourself because you don't respect yourself. Take care of yourself, your physical body, your mental body. More than anything, your mental. Everything starts with your mind. Be mindful of what enters your eyes, your ears. Be mindful of the words that come out of your mouth, because those words go back into your ears. So think about it like this. When you have a negative self-thought, it's bad enough that you're thinking it, but it's still inside. But when you say it, it goes out, then it goes right back in. You're amplifying its effect. When you're on social media, I'm very mindful of how I curate my social media experiences. If a person is always negative, if they're always complaining, if they're not optimistic, they will be muted or they will be unfollowed, unfriended, whatever. Because I don't need that kind of energy in my life. You have to work very hard to maintain a high frequency. That's the things that I watch, the things that I listen to, the things that I say, the experiences that I have, the habits that I have. That's still playing the big game when your immediate external evidence says you should be playing a small game. It's all a mental thing. Your current circumstances they're not who you are. They're just circumstances. They just happen to be. Now, you can choose to assign value to it, good or bad. But what I would recommend is just acknowledging that it's just a circumstance. It's not who you are. It's not what you're capable of. It's not what got you to this point. It's not your circumstances. It's your mindset. Even it's really easy to blame your childhood, to say, I did not have this, or I experienced this or that. And I'm not saying that those experiences are not traumatic and your experience is not valid. They are. However, will you choose to carry the weight of that burden for your entire life? Because you're hearing this, you're now aware that it's a choice. And if you choose to continue that burden and not do the work to release that burden, well, you built your own prison. You've sentenced yourself to a slow, painful death. And you don't have to. I used to accept those things. I was diagnosed with severe depression. I was on medication for quite some time. And it wasn't until I decided to stop letting the external circumstances of my life determine my internal state of being. I let the outside influence what's the inside, when in reality what I learned is that if I start and work on my inside and say, hey, I am happy, I'm going to live a life that's in alignment, I'm going to start taking actions that are aligned with how I think I should be living, well, everything around me externally has no choice but to comply with that energy, because it is overwhelming. It is strong. It is strong. Yours is too. Whatever you have on the inside, your immediate external environment is just a reflection of that internal state. Chaos inside, chaos outside. Peace inside, peace outside. If you're unhappy right now, make the choice to stop and start getting yourself aligned with how you actually live to how you think you should be. And the more you close the gap, the more peace you'll find, the more success you'll find. Success is defined as making progress towards a worthy ideal that you set. You have no choice but to be successful when you close the gap. Stop being unhappy, start living a life that's aligned.